I hate to say I told you guys so, but I told you so. For all of the naysayers and people who said that I did not have my information correct about this, even though I sent them articles, even though I sent them information about the census and stuff like that, as far as regarding the population of white versus black that live in this area, even though I even posted comments and emailed certain people back the comment section showing that people said that they live in this area and they can confirm, yes, this is definitely one of those communities, these places that's a little bit unlike most places in America because it's a little bit racist in a place called Sissonville, West Virginia, otherwise known as Charleston, West Virginia. I'm just saying, it's funny how people want to tell me that I'm wrong, but they can't prove that I'm wrong. But let me give you a disclaimer, and then we will get into the details in case you've never been to my channel before. Let's get it. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary also contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. So our source for this particular article that somebody actually emailed me because it changed within a short amount of time. So this is actually an updated article, so thank you very much. This is coming from WCHSTV.com. So if you want to argue, go to their website and email the person that wrote this damn article. Anyway, if people don't believe what I'm saying about this story, would you believe it if you actually heard the words of one of the teenagers that was involved in this story, that actually lived in this nasty, filthy place that these people forced them to be in what they describe as slave labor? Check this out. In gripping testimony that lasted 3 hours, a teenage girl described how she said she and her siblings were treated for years at the hands of their adopted parents. I think that alone and their witness account, their firsthand witness account, completely decimates anybody who emailed me all of these horrible things and made it seem like I got it wrong and they were attacking me in my email. If y'all want me to post that, maybe I need to read some excerpts from that. This is firsthand account. She said that they were mistreated for years at the hands of their adopted parents, who are now accused of human trafficking them and forcing them to do child labor because of their race being black. Now, let's go. Jean, I never get this right, Jean K. Hughes Whitefeather, who was the lady, his wife, that's a funny looking dude, this funny looking woman right here, 62 years old, and Donald Ray Lance, 61 years old, the other fool, are both accused in a 20-count indictment, also alleging charges of child abuse and other civil rights violations that stem from October of 2023, discovery of 2 teenagers locked in a shed in Sissonville, West Virginia. The teen, who was 16 years old when Whitefeather and Lance were arrested, is now 18 years old. Eyewitness News is protecting her identity, which also aligns with a circuit court order from Judge Mary Claire Akers, who was overseeing the trial. At the time the parents were arrested, the other children, whose ages were 6 years old, y'all catch that? 6 years old, 9 years old, 11 years old, and 14 years old. The state said previously that the 14-year-old boy would not be testifying and is receiving full-time care at a psychiatric facility. Anybody else want to question that this actually didn't happen and that this is a lie? I would love to hear from you. This is your time to shine. The youngest child also will not be testifying and is not alleged to have been mistreated or abused by the couple, something the teenage girl said greatly confused her because that child was also black. Crazy, man. She started her testimony by describing the family's living conditions in Washington state before they moved to West Virginia in May of 2023. She described sleeping in tents, 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 sleeping in tents, along with her 4 siblings and bathing in totes, like plastic totes, bathing in totes. Don't that sound a bit slavery-ish? When Assistant Prosecutor Madison Tuck asked why was she made to bathe in totes, she said, because she said that we were dirty and that we stunk. We smelled bad, referring to Whitefeather, the woman, is what she said about them, according to this girl's account. She also described being allowed in the main house on the property only when there was company or when Whitefeather had family over, and that's probably to cover. She told the jury that she was never allowed to eat from the same dishes as that woman who looked like she's never missed a goddamn meal. She said, and I quote, "We never ate off the same dishes the whole time we lived together," she said. She also recalled running away for 2 days from the home after being locked in a room for 2 weeks during a hot summer. She said Lance hit her while she was locked up because she wasn't standing still with her hands on her head as instructed. That guy. She said she heard Whitefeather, the woman, shoot a gun at a rock while the couple was out looking for her. Don't that sound like a freaking movie to y'all? Like any slave movie you've ever seen or heard of? She said she heard Whitefeather shoot a gun at a rock while they were out looking for her. Like you out looking for, you wouldn't even look for your dog like that if you lost your damn animal. But anyway, I didn't feel like I was ever going to get out of this situation, is what she told the jury. She also said her teenage brother tried running away to a neighbor's house. She told the jury that the siblings did not always have free access to food, water, or a bathroom. She also told them that they mainly ate peanut butter sandwiches or food she said Whitefeather had put dirt and trash in, among other things. Ladies and gentlemen, and you're talking about the year 2023, 2024, or maybe longer, that these kids were forced to go through this. This day and age, this is the stupid shit that people like this are doing. And it's not all white people. It's not even close to a large amount of people. But what I'm saying is when we find situations like this might be the time to cry wolf. Where is Black Lives Matter when it comes to this? You don't see them out marching or protesting, do you? It's only when the police do something because they realize, hey, we can go get a whole lot of money out the police. We can get a whole lot of public sympathy and we can rake in a whole lot of money. But, you know, when it's really, really time to put boots on the ground and get active to try to save some kids and help some kids, they won't do it. They're not doing it. We got their faces blurred out so y'all won't see them. Shortly after moving to Sissonville, she recalled a visit from a child protective services worker named Sierra, who she said the siblings lied about the conditions and treatment they were forced to endure. She said she was told to tell the worker the family had outdoor picnics and played games. She claimed Raybell did not do a complete walkthrough of the home or interview the children alone. They should be sued for that. During redirect, Tuck asked her why was she now comfortable telling the truth about what happened to her. And she said, because I know I won't have to go back to that, which makes perfect sense. Jean and Don Lance were always listening to what we were saying, she said. She said the couple told them the workers only wanted to separate them and take them away. Now, once CPS had been alerted about the family in May, the girl testified she and her teenage brother were forced to spend more time in a locked shed until they were sleeping and staying there full time by August. At first, they did not have a bed in the shed, so they slept in a plastic chair with a sleeping bag. Her brother slept with a sheet, and eventually Lance made a bed frame with plywood and a mattress for her, but not for her brother, who slept with cardboard. She testified that Whitefeather talked to siblings through motion-activated surveillance cameras, which the couple constantly monitored. She said Whitefeather laughed at them through the cameras and called them stupid. I want y'all to think about something that is one of my hashtags that I've had for a very, very long time. What is one of my favorite hashtags? AFC hashtag is what? Hashtag babies for benefits. These people don't care about any humans outside of themselves. They are selfish. They are horrible, ugly, destructive people. Devilish. Devilish in mentality. Just evil people. This is what we call babies for benefits. They don't care about children. They didn't want to see them grow up and become something great. They only wanted to take advantage of the benefits that these children would provide them. Whether they got it from the state or not doesn't even matter, because they forced them to live like slaves. And we'll talk about this fat punk here in a minute, because he actually testified and tried to say that all of this was not correct information. And he was basically trying to make it seem like the kids were lying and the state is lying on these people, trying to defend his family. These people are just horrible folks. So for my good white people that live in Sissonville, West Virginia, then I would encourage you guys to disassociate yourselves from the trash of your race. We don't, like, even with me being black, I disassociate myself from thugs and all the bullshit killers and murderers and child abusers and all of that stuff. Everybody has to do it. And it starts with your own people. She described being made to stand all day, to wear them out. We would go to sleep and do it again the next day. That's all it was, she said. It was a thing on the daily, she said, of Whitefeather using pepper spray on her siblings by Whitefeather. It felt like fire on your skin, she said, as she told them they were not permitted to wash it off. It dries off at some point. You got to get used to it, she said. Jesus Christ. So what are people saying? Are y'all trying to say that these kids are making this up? You couldn't make this up if you watched 100 slave movies. I'm trying to tell you, I've probably watched about 100 slave movies, and even me, I couldn't have made up a story like this. Not like this. With these very specific details, recalling the words and names and treatment and behavior of these folks. Forced to babysit her teenage brother because the couple claimed he was psychotic, she described a clock in the shed that dictated their schedule of when they could eat, drink, and go to the bathroom every 2 hours. How could you possibly make that up? You could not possibly make that up. Even a liar couldn't make that up if they wanted to. She remembered Whitefeather calling her brother demonic and satanic boy through the cameras. At one point, Tuck asked if she'd recognize the shed from the pictures. Do I have to see it? She asked before putting her head in her hand and turning towards the screen. That's it for pictures. I won't make you do it again, Tuck said after showing her a photo. She went on to say that while living in West Virginia, she never attended school, and was never given any homeschool instruction. She only gained knowledge by memorizing something from a book. She also said Whitefeather called the siblings racial slurs, including the nigger word, the N word, excuse me, the N word, and called them buckwheat. Buckwheat. She recalled Whitefeather showing them jail stories and making a point to tell them the suspects were black. Wow. Trying to teach them to hate themselves. Isn't that something? Of course, that comes from the imagination of a kid. Of course, children made all of this up in their heads, right? Them being black was always some big part of the story, she said. Whitefeather's attorney, Mark Plants, cross-examined her, leading her to ask for a break shortly after Plants started asking about what he referred to as vacations the family went on. After the break, she apologized to Plants for getting upset, but she said she wanted to elaborate more about what he referred to as quote-unquote vacations. She said they weren't vacations and were still made to work wherever they went. For instance, in a trip Plants said was to a beach in Oregon, she testified it was to visit a sick relative of Whitefeather's. She denied claims her brother was aggressive or dangerous. During opening statements earlier in the week, defense attorney said that the couple was trying to protect the rest of the family from him. She said he was trying to defend himself in an incident. Whitefeather claimed he had hit her. She testified Whitefeather was trying to hit her brother with a whip, and when he tried to grab it, Whitefeather fell over. Ain't that ridiculous? She said no with authority when Plants asked if she or her brother had ever voluntarily gone to what he referred to as the classroom area, referencing the shed. I don't know how you wouldn't consider it a punishment. I was locked in there, she said. She also said she didn't know where the key was, where a key was in the shed that was later found by detectives on top of a shelf after they were called to the home on October the 2nd of 2023. At one point, Plants referred to Whitefeather as her mother. She sternly interrupted. This is the teenage girl. She interrupted him, and here's what she said. Don't call her my mother, please. That's my only request to you. Her name is Jean or Miss Whitefeather, she said. Please and thank you. Here's another thing I want. Yes, a whip. You heard that right. Here's what I also want y'all to think about, because this came out when we talked about it in our last story. So y'all need to go back and watch this series. We're going to actually probably make this into a series at this point because there's more to come. How does it make any sense? Or why would these kids be locked in a shed and it's okay because a key was found inside so they could get out, allegedly, which is what one of the family members was trying to actually imply, which was this guy. If you go back and watch the video of him testifying, he was trying to testify and say the key was in there the whole time and they could have got out any time that they wanted to. But if you think about it, then why would it be locked at all if they could get out anytime they wanted to? Which debunks his stupid ass statement to begin with. But nonetheless, let me try to see if these videos will work. Let me give you guys a fair usage. Allows citizens to the fair usage about my content, and then we'll go from there. Let's get it. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. I don't really understand. I think it was locked from the outside, so I think you are right about that. I see what you typed in the chat. But nonetheless, it's still stupid either way it goes. If you guys would do me a favor and please hit that thumbs up and share this video, that will help us out quite a bit. Please hit that thumbs up and make this story go viral. Let's get it.
Today was day 2 in the trial for a Sissonville couple charged with gross child neglect, including human trafficking. Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance are accused of locking children inside a closed-off area of a barn. Today, 2 Kanawha County Sheriff's Office deputies testified in detail about rescuing the teens locked in the barn on October 2nd. The defense then cross-examined those witnesses before the jury. And after the lunch break, we heard from a 3rd deputy who took the stand and reviewed thousands of surveillance clips from inside the barn, a view of the road, and a bedroom that was in the main residence, testifying that the children were lacking basic necessities. Those videos were shown in front of the jury.
And they don't ever leave the barn area. I received 5 or 6 days worth of footage that covers them in that room, and the only time I observed one of them step out of that room, other than that, they never left that room as far as the video showed.
The trial will resume tomorrow at 9 a.m., and we're expecting to see the prosecution continue to show more surveillance footage. Now we are.
Y'all are asking, couldn't this be federally charged and couldn't this also be a hate crime? I think it could be. I don't know if they're going to go that far, but I think it absolutely should be. This is a level of human trafficking, human trafficking. It's like if they want to consider what Diddy did with adults to be so bad, it's like, don't you think that they would treat something like this? Well, I mean, now granted, he's extremely famous, very resourceful. I get that. It's quite a bit different. These people ain't got Diddy money. But in this situation, I think that they definitely should probably charge this on a federal level. Definitely should be some hate crime charges in there too. So, yeah, I agree.
We're also expecting the defense to cross-examine the detective.
The couple charged with human trafficking and forced labor after adopted children were found locked in a shed in Sissonville is set to go to trial on Monday. But this morning, attorneys hashed out some of the pretrial details, and in the process, we learned some more about this case, as Anna Saunders has that story for us tonight. But we do want to warn you before we show you the story that some of the images that you will see are disturbing.
Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance walked into their last hearing ahead of their Monday trial to go over some of the concerns about what evidence and what testimony will be allowed to go before a jury next week. One of those matters is about an investigation into alleged abuse involving Whitefeather and Lance's treatment of their 5 adopted children before they moved to Sissonville in 2023. According to adoption records, Whitefeather and Lance adopted 5 black siblings from Minnesota in 2018 and moved to Washington State in 2019. It has been the argument from Kanawha County prosecutors that the 2 targeted the children because of their race to use them for forced labor. And according to recent court filings from prosecutors, including pictures from Whitefeather's phone and videos from the surveillance cameras they kept on the children, the alleged abuse started in Washington and was even investigated by the Okanogan County Sheriff's Office and their Department of Children, Youth, and Families for a year before they moved to Kanawha County. According to the filing, they kept them on a large ranch in Washington, denying them bedrooms in the home. And
I'm going to back these pictures up because I actually had some people tell me in my email, swear to God to y'all, I'm not lying. It was a woman, actually. I'm not going to say her name until I just feel like I need to expose her, but I don't because I don't know who it is. Just somebody who emailed me tried to tell me that these kids actually were not black. Is that not proof? You don't need to see their faces completely, but that looked like black kids to me if I've ever seen any, and I've been black my whole damn life. 41 years of my life, that looked black to me. Yes or no? Matter of fact, when I repost this video, I'm going to make sure and send her a copy because you know what? Once I started sending her proof, she stopped responding and made it seem like I was harassing her, y'all. That's crazy. How people will try to excoriate you when you prove them wrong. Then all of a sudden they will leave me alone. But you looked up my email and emailed me to try to tell me that I'm a liar. Those are like black kids to me. Unless I'm just deaf, dumb, and blind, which I don't think I am.
According to the filing, they kept them on a large ranch in Washington, denying them bedrooms in the home and forcing them to work outside.
Yes, you are right. I read what you just wrote. The courts even said that the kids were black. So I'm like, why are you emailing me? Because I'm just relaying information from the website. Even at the beginning of my story, I give you the website link. You can go look it up and go argue with the author of the website article. Thank you for posting that. That's what we got a live chat. Please hit that thumbs up if y'all listening. We need more people watching.
Where punishments included physical violence or the withholding of food. In 2 instances where 2 of the children tried to run away, the children told investigators Whitefeather would fire her gun at them.
And Mr. Lance's alleged act of striking the child with a PVC pipe, we know about that only because there's a picture of it on Miss Whitefeather's cell phone, taken from their surveillance cameras that they used in furtherance of all of their other acts to isolate and control the children.
In April of 2023, the 2 moved to Sissonville with the children, where court records say immediately after their arrival, neighbors began making reports to CPS about the children being forced to work on the property, stand for long periods of time, and use a porta potty in the yard. And then ultimately the report of children locked in a barn, which led deputies to the Sissonville home in October 2023, where Lance and Whitefeather were arrested and later handed a 20-count indictment, including human trafficking, child abuse, and using a minor for forced labor.
They think that conduct in Washington during that 6 or 7 years is intrinsic to their case. And I agree with them. On the other side of that is my client's conduct in response to that is highly relevant and highly probative.
In response, Whitefeather's attorney Mark Plants is hoping to paint a different picture with text messages, medical records, and witnesses at trial that the couple is not racist and did not target or abuse these children. He is not objecting to the use of the Washington records because he plans to use information from Washington too. So does Donald Lance's attorney John Belinovich, but he is objecting to the use of the Washington abuse investigation since charges were never filed there.
What they're doing is they're trying to take things from these records in Washington to fit their narrative.
Some other issues that could come up at trial, whether or not Whitefeather and Lance are actually married, which could prevent them from testifying against each other. If they are, we do expect to hear from the children at trial, and Plants indicated on Friday that the plan now is for Whitefeather to also take the stand.
There's so much, I can't understate how much evidence that there is that it was a common plan or scheme.
In Charleston, Anna Saunders, Eyewitness News.
And there was an attempt by Lance's attorney to have separate trials. Judge Mary Claire Akers ruled against that, so the 2 will remain co-defendants with 1 trial. The jury selection process is scheduled to begin on Monday, and they are expecting this trial to last about 2 weeks.
Couple charged with locking their adopted children in a barn without food and water appearing in court today. Jean Whitefeather and Donald Lance were recently indicted on additional charges, both pleading not guilty to those charges just this morning. The couple arrested in October last year at their home in Sissonville after deputies got calls from several concerned.
Turn my volume back on. I want to call that out too. Rachel said that while she was smirking, y'all saw that when she was walking through the courtroom, like she's smiling and smirking. Like, I just think these are just evil people. I really do.
Neighbors. When they got there, they found 2 children, a boy and a girl, trapped inside a 20 by 14 foot building. The trial for them set for February 13th.
A Sissonville couple accused of human trafficking and forced labor of adopted children, including 2 teenagers who were found locked in a barn in Sissonville. Well, they're back in jail.
Now, during their arraignment this afternoon, Judge Mary Claire Akers significantly increased the bonds for Jean Whitefeather and Donald Lance. Anna Saunders joins us live in the studio tonight with the reason. Anna?
Dave, Gina, before setting their bonds to $500,000 cash each, Judge Akers said she has never seen an indictment quite like this, and that not only alleges the trafficked black children, adopting them from shelters and foster care, forcing them to work, but that they specifically targeted them because of their race. Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance came in on their own for their arraignments, but left in cuffs after Judge Mary Claire Akers set their bonds at $500,000, more than double what they had already paid.
And I don't think I've ever seen an indictment like this in all of my time. It alleges human trafficking, human rights violations, the use of forced labor, human rights violations specific to the fact that these children were targeted because of their race, and their use as basically slaves from what the indictment alleges, along with human trafficking and neglect with serious risk of bodily injury or death. I don't find the bond to be sufficient.
Whitefeather and Lance were first arrested last October when a welfare check turned into the discovery of two teens apparently locked in a shed where investigators said they lived in deplorable conditions behind the Sissonville home. One other kid was found inside the house and two others were not home, all adopted by the couple. The indictment brought more than a dozen new charges against them alleging human trafficking and forced labor, also civil rights violations, as investigators believe they targeted these children specifically from a shelter because they were black, forcing them to work as slaves. Whitefeather and Lance were originally in Washington State, and it is alleged they brought the children with them to Sissonville when they moved.
Counts 9 through 12 allege the use of forced labor, which I read as slavery.
Bond was initially set at $200,000 cash, and they were both able to post it. Prosecutors have said in a new complaint for forfeiture, the couple sold a $725,000 80-acre ranch in Washington State and sold their Sissonville home to post bond, and they believe both of these properties were paid for through trafficking. That will be decided in a separate court matter, but because of this, prosecutors say they found discrepancies in the financial affidavit Lance filled out for a court-appointed attorney, leading to a new charge on his indictment.
Some of the information on his face is inaccurate.
Lance had to fill out a new affidavit today as the two were taken back into custody.
Now, the next time these two are scheduled to appear in court is for their scheduled trial in September. Prosecutors noted there are volumes of evidence in this case for all sides to go through. Now, in terms of the bond issue with how the original bonds were paid for, that is to be worked out at a later date. Live.
So two things I want to touch on. One is about plants, and the other thing is about the bond. So somebody in the chat was asking, how did they get that type of money? Well, the property or house that they had prior to moving is what they sold. So once they got that money, they used that money to try to bail themselves out. But the thing is the judge was basically saying, how much of that money did you get? Or we can't really verify that you didn't get any money at all off the backs of these children, whether it be for sex trafficking or forced labor, free labor, or anything like that. So they basically, it's just like, you know what? Don't matter how much you paid, this is going to be held on to. And I actually agree with that because, you know, it's just kind of a crazy thing when people got a lot of money, they can do a lot of bad things once they get out of prison just because they are well off. Same thing, even like with the Diddy situation, which is why they want to keep him in jail, right? Because he could present a danger. It could potentially mess up the prosecutor's case. Second thing I want to touch on is, I'm sorry, let me take these off so y'all can see the pictures again. Second thing I want to touch on is plants. Because somebody in the chat caught it earlier, and I heard it too. And I was reading that article, and again, y'all go and go look at the article for yourself. And I was like, why is he asking her those level of questions almost as in a doubtful way as far as the recollection of this teenager? You should ask the questions, they give the answers, so you can more or less give an exploratory story as to what happened rather than trying to lead the jury or lead people to think about a story a certain way. I felt like he was trying to lead her and trying to make her look a certain type of way, and I just didn't like that. On top of that, to just know that people like this in this world still exist is just beyond me. To know that you could be this cruel, this callous, this inhumane more than anything. Could have left these kids alone. And again, I'm going to take y'all back to the very beginning. My initial thoughts was these kids shouldn't be in foster care anyway. Sons of bitches like this shouldn't even have access to children like this. they shouldn't even be in the system. So that means that the families, the mothers and biological fathers, need to not fail these children from the beginning. We have to only bring children into this world with a plan and not fail them, because you can't predict what hands they're going to fall into and just think that this CPS, Child Protective Services safety net, is going to just make sure that these kids are just all well and good for the rest of their life until they become grown. That's just not reality. Like, cracks in the system happen. Kids end up falling into abuse. A lot of bad things can happen in the system, and we know that, and we've been exposing that. If you guys have not seen Oklahoma, the documentary that we put out, and I got to give a shout out to the NAACP and to Dear John, which is Dana Brockway, who actually gave me a documentary that I was able to publish on my channel, which is the corruption of CPS in Oklahoma. Please make sure you guys go at least take a look at that video. Watch it all the way through. It's not even an hour long. It's a very, very powerful situation to get people to understand the CPS system in itself in a lot of places is corrupt. You guys see that happen a whole lot in a place called Cleveland, Ohio, Cuyahoga County. Y'all heard of that place, right? It's been sued many times over situations with mishandling of children. Some people in the chat feel like CPS is a freaking joke. But again, I'm the advocate for children. Children should never even be able to get to the point of being taken away from their parents or being given away. Or why have them? Why have the kids if you're not going to protect them and provide for them and raise them so they can grow up and become something great and not end up in the hands of people like this? They shouldn't even have had children to be able to adopt, let alone black children. But again, that's a failure on everybody's part. The parents, their extended family, cousins, aunties, uncles, CPS, and these two people, Whitefeather and Lance. So we're not done with this story. We're far from done with it. So when we get some more details, we'll absolutely come back and report on this all over again. Y'all see my email address, the afcmatters@gmail.com. Tell me factually where I'm wrong. I don't want to hear about your damn feelings. If you got something that you can prove, something that we said is wrong, you cannot prove that those kids aren't black. You cannot prove that those kids were not enslaved. You cannot prove that those kids were not abused. You cannot prove that those kids were not locked in that barn. You cannot prove that they were not mistreated and treated like freaking slaves. So what are you going to give me with regard to trying to debunk anything that I've said? Think about that before you email me about this story. Get out your damn feelings. Thank you guys. For everybody else listening, leave a comment in the comment section. Hit that thumbs up, like, share, subscribe to the AFC Podcast. We're going to advocate for children first, and we're going to get up in y'all behinds. Straight up. Anybody who hurt, murder, abuse kids.